mother introduced Dr. Brian Alcott as her therapist boyfriend, just weeks after Dad vanished. I tried to be polite. He smiled too long and sat in Dad's chair like he'd earned it. I faked acceptance. He replaced Dad's coffee mug, a symbol I couldn't ignore. We used to say, at least we have each other. Now Dr. Brian sleeps in my father's bed. Before Dad vanished, we had weekend fishing trips. His country songs were annoying then, comforting now. That old flannel he wore, it smelled like lake water and sweat. Dr. Brian threw it away, calling it clutter. Mom said it was for closure. I clung to that flannel as if it were Dad himself. It was more than fabric. It was proof he existed. Now it's gone, like he never mattered, like he never existed at all. Back when Dad taught me how to change a tire. We laughed until the wrench slipped and cut my hand. He wrapped it in his bandana, kissed my forehead, and called me a warrior. That bandana vanished too. Dr. Brian said we needed a clean slate. Mom nodded, glazed eyes fixed on Dr. Brian. I kept quiet, bleeding in new ways. Every trace of Dad was being erased, like his love had been a lie. As Dr. Brian's wellness center grew, Mom grew distant. She praised his healing techniques at every meal. I stopped mentioning Dad. Aunt Sharon stopped calling. Even Emma, once glued to my side, spent hours in his meditation sessions. At school, teachers eyed me like I was troubled. I watched my family dissolve under his calm voice and perfect teeth, and I still didn't know where my father was. Uncle Pete offered to help me dig through Dad's things. But half the boxes were missing, donated, Mom said. Dr. Brian claimed it was part of the grief process. Pete's face hardened. That's not healing, that's erasing. We searched the garage anyway, but found nothing. Emma said I was obsessed. Maybe I was, but someone had to remember who my father really was. At dinner, I asked Mom about Dad's guitar, the one he wrote lullabies with. Dr. Brian answered instead, saying it broke and was thrown out. Mom nodded without looking up. I wanted to scream. Aunt Lisa later whispered, it's in my attic. She looked over her shoulder. Even helping me was risky. I realized then Dr. Brian wasn't helping. He was controlling. Silently, surgically cutting Dad out of our lives. When I showed a teacher my essay about Dad, she pulled me aside. Maybe you're projecting trauma, she said gently. Your stepfather says you're struggling. That night, Dr. Brian offered a session. I refused. He called me hostile. Mom looked ashamed of me. Aunt Sharon avoided eye contact. They were rewriting my story without my permission, and everyone seemed ready to believe his version over mine. Marcus Bell finally answered my texts. I shouldn't talk, he wrote. It's not safe. That confirmed it. Dad hadn't just left. He was pushed out. When I confronted Mom, she cried and said I was being cruel to Brian. The walls were closing in. Even evidence couldn't compete with Dr. Brian's smile. I wasn't just fighting for Dad. I was fighting for the truth. At the custody hearing, I sat behind a stack of binders, Dad's work logs, therapy notes, appointment receipts. Aunt Lisa brought the guitar. Uncle Pete testified. Dr. Brian didn't flinch. But when I pulled out the flannel preserved in plastic, Mom gasped. Why would he keep that? She whispered. I stood because he never left us. You pushed him out. The room silenced. Even Dr. Brian's jaw tightened for the first time. I couldn't finish the whole story in this short. The full story is on my channel and linked.